Oh, hey, you're up. Oh, hey, you're up.
Hit that flying pajama or what?
Oh, hey, you're up.
You're
Oh,
gonna
hey,
die.
you're up.
Again
Hit that flying pajama or
again.
what?
Oh, hey,
and
you're up.
again.
Oh, hey, you're up.
Hit that flying pajama or what?
Oh, hey, you're up. Oh, hey, you're up.
Who's Bill Murray?
Oh, hey, you're up. I'm not sure if you remember my name or not. You were pretty wasted last night. I'm Bubbawheat, and you're listening to my podcast, It's Time to Rewind, where we're in the death days of autumn, covering the Happy Death Day movies one loop at a time. Today, we're discussing Ryan's first loop in Happy Death Day 2U that starts at the beginning of the movie with a multi-universal logo and ends at 7 minutes and 42 seconds with Ryan getting stabbed by the babyface killer. Joining me today is my guest, Eleazar from Nightmare Echoes. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I am excited to dig into the second movie. Well, I mean, a peek behind the curtains. I've already recorded a couple of the episodes from a bit later in the movie, and I'm circling back around for the first episode. But
Okay.
still, I'm excited to dig into this, and it's the second movie is so different, but so similar to the first movie in a lot of ways that
Sure.
there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, but before we get too far into that, what's your history with these movies?
So I kind of started seeking out other Christopher Landon projects after I watched Freaky. That was the first movie that I saw that, even though I might have seen other movies that he written, I didn't connect the name with him. So the Paranormal Activity movies, I know he had written a lot of those, and I really like those movies as well. But after I saw Freaky, which I was like at 3 a.m. because I was staying up with a kid that was vomiting all night, and I just need something on TV. And so I put on Freaky. I loved it, and I was like, "What else has he done?" I found this movie, Happy Death Day, and then I instantly got that. And then I bought the sequel when it came to Blu-ray as well. My I always judge a horror movie on how well it can do with the general audience by when I show it to my father, how well my father says he enjoys it, and he actually enjoyed the second one more than the first one because it was more comical and he could get down with that more than he generally horror isn't always his thing.
Mhm.
So I thought that was interesting. So I've always loved time loop movies, so that's why I love your podcast. And now I'm going through the season of Triangle, which I love
Nice.
that movie as well. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I went off tangent there. Sorry, but yeah, I like a lot of things that Christopher Landon has done, and so when I saw Freaky, I then jumped over to see Happy Death Day, and then obviously the sequel, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, nice. I'm enjoying it. The second movie, I'm finding I am finding a lot more issues with it than I did in the first movie, but I still think that the second movie is very fun, and I'm enjoying it so far. So, uh, let's go ahead and get into this first loop. And uh, again, I don't generally talk too much about the production logos, but
Right.
this one does do a bit of a fun thing, just like the first one did, with where the first one repeated three times, and then this one splits into three. You could say multiversal logos in the beginning.
Yeah, I in the commentary on the Blu-ray, Christopher Landis says he got a note from the production or from Universal saying, "Can you stop messing with our logo? Like we've perfected our logo." But one thing in that first movie that he did is he put the sound of Sissy that we meet in this movie going off in that Universal logo in the first movie because he knew the story. What if he ever got to make a sequel? What caused it? So he put this sound hidden in that first logo so that it's an Easter egg to go back after the second film got made, which I think is a lot of fun. That he just was like, I'll just throw this in there in that first opening that was different as well. I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah, and then after they don't mess with the Blumhouse production logo, but then we do. I find it interesting that the movie does start the exact same way that the first movie starts. Other than them changing the way that they changed the Universal logo. And I didn't actually I'm not sure. I think I noticed it, but I didn't comment on it. But the first 2 chimes of the clock tower bell that we hear are reversed.
Okay.
So we hear 2 reversed bell chimes, and then it cuts into the, 2 more bell chimes, uh, playing forward. And I think that's interesting, and I think it's it works well, even though the movie starts, I guess technically before the loop has started, so this should technically be like the first day. It does give you just a very subtle, an extremely subtle audio clue, that, something is going on with reversing time and going backwards in time, like with the time
Right.
loops and that take place in both movies.
Oh, I was just gonna say I like the way he messes with it. I like that it's a little interesting. I also like that we start with a completely different character here
Mhm,
and somebody going on in the movie we're like, why? Wait, that's the roommate that we don't even know his name, right? Which is I mean, I think they said it in the first movie, but
mhm.
if you did pay attention, you're like, who's this character we got all of a sudden?
Yeah, and I like that it opens on the little Tesla figure on the dashboard that's holding up a Tesla coil. And I do think that it's a fascinating choice to start with Ryan. And I talked a lot about, how the first movie had all these fake outs. It had so many different like killer fake outs, red herring fake outs, and all this. And I feel like it starts the movie with yet another fake out because you think, "Oh, this is interesting." It's almost like, it's gonna go Rashomon style, so the second movie is gonna be all about Ryan, and we're gonna follow Ryan going through the time loop, but we only get 2 loops with Ryan, and then he gets pushed off to being a secondary character yet again as the focus shifts back to Tree.
Right. And I love that it does a good job of convincing you that it's going to be real because we set up all these scenes that are very easy to reproduce each loop.
Mhm.
Waking up with a car horn, going outside and a dog attacking him, this guy jumping out from behind a bush and almost getting hit by a guy on a skateboard. And those are things you're like, okay, these are what we're going to see every time we get a loop in this movie.
Yeah, and and I also like Ryan's shirt that because it's this weird, like, bloodstain pattern, which
Yeah.
I think fits with both movies, actually. It fits in the first movie because even though he's a secondary character, it kinda gets you into the slasher mood, and I feel like, the first movie is, like, the 30 to 40% slasher movie, and this movie is only, like, 5 to 10% slasher.
Yeah. It's like they forgot they're a horror.
But it works in this movie because he's the one getting killed, so that's at least the first time.
Right.
And like you said, we get all these time loop markers of yeah, like you said, the car with the La Bamba horn, and it's funny because it whenever I was taking notes, um, I was like, it's I just called it like a weird car horn, and then I was like, I know what song that is, and it took me a while to figure out. It's like, oh, it's La Bamba. That's that's the song that the horn is playing.
Yeah, that was definitely a movie that I was shown a lot as a child because I'm Mexican American, and my parents clung to any movie that showed Mexican people in a good light. I would swear.
Yeah, and there's we also get a couple crossover time loop markers with Ryan here. And one of them is as he's going across the quad, which, before we get to that, we do get a little bit more, kind of showing Ryan's personality, which I think it's interesting. And again, I almost think that it's kind of a fake out because just based on Ryan's personality, you think that he's just, like kind of a slacker um, college student. And especially with this introduction, we see him picking his nose at one point and the car filled with all the chip bags and Red Bull cans. And
That he just lets fall on the floor
yeah,
or on the ground outside.
yeah, so he feels like very much a slacker slash slob, and then it's not until, like, after he leaves, Tree and well, his own room that's, now occupied with Tree and Carter, that we find out that no, he's a nerd and he's studying quantum mechanics.
Right. Which I could see. I mean, I know. I mean, I'm a nerd. I know a lot of nerds, and then I could see some that would think things like cleanliness aren't the most important. So picking a nose or like not even, he wants to change it to good underwear. So
Mhm.
that's something important. He just is not allowed to change it to clean underwear.
Yeah, kinda like the
But
the social missing the social cues that a lot of
right,
we find that he's a kinda not like a slacker nerd stereotype with
right.
and again, that does fit with, like the the Red Bull and Doritos, which, if this was probably 5 years older, it would be Mountain Dew and Doritos, but being 2019 and, technically taking place in 2017,
Right.
Red Bull and Doritos does feel like a very nerd-centric, drink of choice, especially pulling, late night cram sessions and stuff like that. And, yeah, I was talking about the crossover time loop markers. We do get him walking past the activist, and again, he gets this funny moment where he pretends not to speak English in a very stereotypical, uh, Asian accent, where he's like, "No, me no speak English."
Yeah, and I want to say that I think the movie did a really good job of bringing back tiny roles like that.
Hmm.
Like we have besides this global warming activist, later we get that very soft-spoken sorority girl that always sits outside the house,
Hmm.
even though they're such a small part of the movie. The fact that they were able to get all these extras to come back and do basically the same thing they did the first time.
Yeah.
I think that's really neat that the movie was able to pull that off.
Mhm. And they even, throw in something that I feel like most people wouldn't even notice because I'm not sure if I ever noticed it the watching it the uh, first time through, but as I was kinda going into each loop individually and listening to it with headphones, I caught the trumpet, uh, playing at the beginning of every day and the guy yelling, "Shut up." That's
Right. I don't think I heard it until after I'd seen the second one and went back for a rewatch because I knew that we saw him in the second movie, and then watching the first movie, I was able to notice that I heard it.
Yeah, although I do have an issue with that because this day that we're seeing is not Monday the 18th. This is Tuesday the 19th.
That makes sense. You're right.
And so I can understand the activist still being there because, maybe she's there all week collecting signatures. So it makes sense that she's there 2 days in a row. But this guy having this exact same interaction at the exact same time with the trombone player playing badly and his across the hall neighbor yelling "shut up" in exactly the same way at roughly exactly the same time. I think that's a bit of a stretch. I do appreciate it for
Right.
for them bringing it back, even though it doesn't make it as much sense. And I also like absolutely love the passive aggressive double middle fingers that the trombone player or the single middle finger that the trombone player gives to the closed door.
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I guess you're right. I mean, it would be hard to believe that he would be like, maybe they slept more this night and I can play again this morning. I'll try again at the exact same minute.
Mhm.
Yeah. One thing from his walk, though, we had that backing up a little bit. We had that dog that barked at him. According to the commentary, Christopher Lambert said that the dog actually bit him in the penis, the actor, and so they had to have him report to the medical services, which meant a medical professional had to handle and examine his penis to report, okay, his skin wasn't pierced, so he has to continue filming. He cannot have the day off. We got to keep going because they're on a schedule.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh my gosh, that's the craziest thing I heard from the Blu-ray of this.
Oh, that's nice, which maybe I didn't look closely or maybe I just have the basic version, but I didn't see a commentary. I don't think I have a commentary on my copy of the movie, so I'm kind of disappointed that I missed out on a lot of stuff. So I'm I'm glad that you have the commentary info to back that up.
Yeah, I guess I got the 4K Ultra
Oh yeah, there it is.
HD Blu-ray combo pack.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I just have like the basic Blu-ray. It just has like I think it's got one deleted scene and a couple like they call them featurettes, but it's very it's stuff made for the DVD that's very
Right.
fluffy.
Yeah, you could generally look up the featurettes on YouTube later too, if it's been enough time.
Yeah. But then, getting back to the scene, we get a repeat of the same scene that we saw at the end of the first movie from a slightly different perspective, which I love. It's it's might be a little bit pretentious to call it Rashomon style because this is not a Rashomon esque level of filmmaking, but I personally love that as a concept. And I love that, we're seeing this exact same scene from Ryan's point of view.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Back to the Future 2. Not that this is anywhere as amazing as Back to the Future 2, but when we get Marty going back in time to go through the same steps he went through in the first movie,
Mhm.
he has to hide from himself, but he gets to see himself and what he looked like in that moment. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that.
Yeah. And, I do we as he walks out the door, we get him, Samar calling him, and we get the fun little Samar ringtone, which, it feels very college. It also, to me, it almost feels a little bit out of date 'cause I feel like by 2017, most college students have switched from the personalized ringtones to just having it on vibrate or silent all the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what my ringtone is.
Yeah, I feel like, the personalized ringtones were like early 2000s into like 2010. I think I want to say about 2010 was probably where it switched from everybody having their personalized ringtone to just going to vibrate.
Right. And maybe this was like a part of the fake out with, okay, if he's looping every time, we're going to have this as the ringtone that we get
Mhm.
over and over throughout this whole movie.
Yeah. And then one little background detail that caught my eye and I have to point out is right whenever Ryan steps out of the elevator as he's going up to the quantum mechanics lab, there is a poster right next to it that is very 80s oh, I can't remember the name. It's like neon noir style
Okay.
poster. It's got a rising sun and in the very like neon color. It looks like and then like the wire graphic landscape, and it's for the Time Riders Club, and at the top it says, "Hey, you fans of the '80s," and the only other word that I can make out looked like Fat Lee's, and I think that's supposed to be a burger joint, but I couldn't find any information if Fat Lee's is actually a real place or if it's just a completely fictional poster. But I love that they have they have this little background detail because it fits so well with the movie and as a whole.
Yeah, I like looking at the little details in the background like that.
Mhm. And yeah, then he makes it to the quantum mechanics lab. We're introduced to two new characters, Samar and Dre, and I think they're a lot of fun. Even though like we kind of start this off with a weird science mistake whenever Dre talks about how the uh, where it's point 0.7 millinewtons of energy, but newtons measures force and not energy. And I did I did look it up, and it's the amount of force that's needed to accelerate 1 gram of mass at 7 meters per second per second. So it's
Yeah.
not really a ton of energy.
Okay. That's funny.
And, yeah, and then we get, very quickly we get the introduction of the third and pretty much final new character with the dean. And, he comes in and uh, we get another line that gets repeated as Samar said, Samar and Dre both immediately exits, which I do love that about them, that they're just like, oh, we're out of here.
Yeah. They're equally part of this project too,
uh,
but they're unwilling to be there to support their friend because they want churros, which I could get down with.
yeah.
I like churros a lot, but I mean, if they're part of the science experiment, I don't know why they all three of them aren't getting yelled at, and it's just Ryan.
Yeah, and Samar says it's churro day at the cafeteria, and Dre says num num.
That's great. Yeah, the actress that played Dre, I forgot her name. She said after this movie, she got a lot of people on social media asking what um, her gender identity was and what her sexual orientation was. Because the way she put it, if you give someone short curly hair and jeans, they instantly think that she might be gay. And she says she's not. She said it didn't help that at the time she wasn't dating anybody, but she's gotten that question a lot. But I wonder if because Christopher Landon is, if he envisioned her character to actually be gay, but the actress herself, didn't know that. I don't know.
Yeah, and I believe her name is Sarah Tarkin.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I think it's good to have like inclusion, but at the same time, it has absolutely no bearing on her character one way or the other, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But I think if the director thinks one way and she thinks another way, I think that's perfectly acceptable to have two different reads on the character because it doesn't really have any impact in the story one way or the other. But if you have someone that can think that her character is queer coded and someone sees that as a symbol of inclusion for them personally, I think that's good to have.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know that in the commentary for the first movie, Christopher Landon said that he had people approach him and say that after watching that movie, they were able to come out to their parents because of the inclusion of the character who Tree finds out is gay,
Mhm.
but was trying to date her.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of neat and that's important to people if that is what helps you be who you really want to be. So I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah, and one thing that I have to say about this very brief interaction with the dean is one thing that I think both movies do well is they quickly and efficiently uh, weave in exposition, and I think that this gets a lot of exposition and even like character building in this really brief interaction. Starting with Ryan saying. You know, the line about, "Oh, I love the tie. Is that cats?" And then the dean's like, "Oh, yeah, that's Turkish Angora." And then he like quickly goes off that. But that such a brief line builds so much character to the dean in such a short
Right.
amount of time. I just love it. And then because the dean doesn't get a ton of screen time, but I feel like, the writing and the acting really does a long way to go to fleshing out this dean as like a full-fledged character.
Right, and then we do get him because of little details like that. The events that happen to him when the movie kind of turns into like a heist movie all of a sudden
Mhm.
are very comical, and because we set him up really early to be important later.
Yeah. And we also get his line about the rolling blackouts and broken bulbs, and
Yeah,
that does again, that quickly and efficiently does 2 things, that connects it to the first movie with the rolling blackouts. It's a way to explain why the school has been having these blackouts, over the past few weeks or so. It's because of this science experiment. And then it also, kind of subtly foreshadows the end of the movie with Tree and Carter kissing under the exploding light bulbs.
right. Yes, and I guess it gives us. I don't know if we needed an answer or not, but for people that watch the first one, like, man, why would the school have so many blackouts?
Mhm.
It gives us. I guess it gives us an answer if anybody thought that that was something that was never explained.
Yeah. And then again, something that fascinated me a bit was the background details in this quantum mechanics lab because they're
Yeah.
I just have to point out, like, a couple things that really caught my eye, and the first one is the big CRT television on the rolling cart. It feels, very much like the 90s, 80s and 90s era AV cart for whenever the teacher would play a movie, and they would roll in the AV cart and
Right,
pop in a VHS.
and it has a Nintendo Entertainment
Uh-huh.
System hooked up to it, which I love, because I have a massive collection of, well, 366 original Nintendo games. So when it's there, it points it out. And then right next to that table is the board game Settlers Catan, and
Mhm.
I love board games. One thing that I get to do with my family a lot is play a lot of board games because I own a lot of board games. So that's kind of fun. I like that they included it wasn't Monopoly or some the Game of Life, something that has been around for a long time. It was a newer-ish game, I guess. Settlers Catan, which I thought was fun.
Yeah. And we also have a lava lamp on the shelf, and the couch is very 70s. Very 70s fabric and wood grain style couch. And like, do you think that some of this decor is from the teacher that's I guess, you know, Professor Bonner or Boner, depending
Oh,
on
maybe.
or do you think that
I guess that's possible.
or do you think that it's the students that, have enough run of the place that they can help bring stuff in?
I had imagined it was the students. Like, hey, if I'm going to be here and I'm going to spend most of my time here, if I need to relax, I'm going to ring my Nintendo because maybe I want to replay some original Legends of Zelda or some Mario when I'm trying to blow off steam. Because I can totally understand that. Like every few years going back, and I try to beat the original Legends of Zelda just a little bit faster.
Mhm.
So I think was what I envisioned. But I guess I am at the age where it would be the professor that's more likely to want to play that again. If the professor, assuming, is old enough that that was from his childhood, then you could completely be right about that. It might be him.
Yeah, and in theory, he wouldn't have to necessarily be that old. He could be in his well, if you add in the 70s decor, maybe being in the 50s, which that's perfectly reasonable for a college professor to be that age.
Right? Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry. I call myself old. I'm 45, but I think of myself as old.
Yeah, same. And one last thing that I do want to point out with the what the dean says is we get a call out of a time as he says that campus security is supposed to come collect Sissy by 6 o'clock today.
Okay.
And so that kind of gives a bit of a ticking clock, even though I don't think that they adhere to that. And spoiler alert, as we get into the parallel version of this world and the parallel dean and parallel security, since in the parallel world he ends up coming a day early.
Right. That is one thing that doesn't seem to make sense or is explained. Like, how did he show up a day early?
No, I mean
Because he had
everything
it.
is explained with just the hand wave of, oh, it's a parallel world, and these
Okay.
the differences are explained because it's parallel and things are a little bit different.
But in previous loops in that parallel world, did they never get to 6 p.m.?
I
Were
I'm not sure because
the,
I haven't really dug into many of. I think I've just recorded Tree's first loop at this point, so
okay.
I haven't really dug into that. That'll definitely be something for me to think about as I start getting into those loops.
Right. I'm curious because it felt to me like if we knew he was going to show up, Tree would have encountered that he shows up at a certain point in the evening at some point during that.
Mhm.
But maybe she was busy doing other things.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
and then we get you know the movie does give us a little bit of horror movie, which I think that it plays out great with Ryan getting a creepy stalker photo of himself sitting in the couch. And and again, I think it's interesting that I mentioned the ringtone earlier, but now his phone is set to vibrate.
Yeah.
And I love this kind of this little chase sequence in a way where we only ever see Ryan, and the killer is represented. We find out very quickly that alternate Ryan or parallel Ryan is the one sending these pictures
Right.
because he knows where Ryan's going to be and what direction he's likely going to go to. But
Yeah. It's almost like follow the leader.
yeah, exactly.
And then with regard to that though, it feels like that plot line right there, with there being a parallel Ryan, kind of fell through.
Yeah,
Like,
disappeared.
right. Why does Tree not later have a parallel her? And in the commentary, they talked about how they had that at first, but then in the script, it turned into the first thing Tree has to do every day is capture her other self, tie her in a closet, and then go about her day. And that just seemed to like not work with the film, so they
Mhm.
just completely got rid of it, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, I think that would have been funny at first, but it would have. I agree. I'm glad that they cut that part out, but I wish they would have like somehow figured out some different way to explain how there was two Ryans but not two trees. But yeah, I do
Right.
think that it makes sense that we don't have multiple trees because that would her having to deal with her parallel self, especially in that way, would kind of, uh, you know, have us look negatively on Tree. She would.
Sure.
It would be something that she would have to do, but it's also not a great look, especially for post first movie Tree.
Yeah. Right, because she did a lot of growing in that movie,
Mhm.
and first, like first loop back in where she's stuck again. It feels like for a little bit there, like she regresses all the way back to what she was at the beginning of the first movie. She's just like pissed at everybody all of a sudden.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that she is very much justified in feeling that way.
Sure,
She
right.
just,
I just got out of this loop. I've been out for maybe 8 hours, maybe not even. I don't know. And now, yeah, I get that.
yeah. And then, as Ryan kind of slowly walks to the closet of the chem lab, and we get the second fake out where Samar puts his hand on Ryan's shoulder and freaks him out and makes him drop the churro that he had bought for Ryan, which,
$2 wasted.
yeah. And I think it's funny because he says, now it's covered in bacteria.
Yes, right.
Even though, jumping ahead at the end of the movie, he's like, "Oh, a perfectly good churro that he picked up off the grass
Right.
outside," and he takes a bite off of it, which it
That's nature. Yeah.
yeah.
No bacteria in nature. I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's pretty funny. And it's with the stick that he's picking up trash with. He picks up the churro with the stick.
Mhm.
So the sticks even makes the churro even more dirty.
Yeah, and we don't see the closets, very much here, but you can clearly see that there's like nobody in the closet whenever he's looking at it. But in the second loop, I you can see that there is more room off, like around the corner to the right. So I
Yeah.
do believe that it's not a full cheat. So I do think that there is enough room in that closet for somebody to hide to where they couldn't be seen from this angle.
Yeah, and according to the commentary, that closet wasn't there in the actual building. It was an exterior wall, so they had to pay to get a hole put in and a door built and a closet just added to the exterior of the building to shoot these scenes,
Huh.
which is just a weird detail.
Yeah. And then we
But we do get. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, and then we get I think one of the quickest death scenes. It's like let's see, it is 2 seconds long.
Yeah,
Where
we do see the mask though, right?
yeah, we see the mask and we do actually see the knife going into Ryan's chest.
Right.
There's extremely minimal blood, we just see like the hint of blood and then it immediately cuts to the next loop. So, and that is where this loop ends. Like what do you think about this, very quick 2-second death?
Yeah, I mean, I like that we know right away that we're going to keep the same mask
Mhm.
that we had that we've already established. It I think it definitely fooled me first watch thinking, okay, this is sort of the same movie, but we're following Ryan. It's interesting. I felt like I was faked out like when Samara's there like, oh, the character's safe and then all of a sudden he's not safe, he's dead like really fast.
Yeah.
So I like the way they did it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I think the pacing works well. I think it's a nice tense build up with the the text, the picture text messages, and the fake outs with the moment of relaxing, and then the very quick payoff.
Yeah. And then with that mask, I did want to bring up that after the first movie, I believe the owner of the King Cake Baby sued, saying that they took his face that he designed, slightly altered it, and used it without his permission. And while I think it looks far enough removed that it's not the same mask at all, I think Universal just settled out of court because it was easier
Mhm.
to just pay them off to go away. But there's no information about how much they paid or anything like that. But it's really interesting that they got sued over the mask.
Yeah, which that is interesting, and I'm looking up the king cake baby mask myself, the which I can see the similarity, but I do think I mean it is a creepy, or it is like a baby. There's not too much you can do to to have a representation of a baby face.
Right.
They're all baby, uh, baby dolls and baby faces are extremely similar. It's weird that you can't really copyright a a caricature of a baby because that's
Right.
what a baby looks like.
Yeah, that's why I found it interesting. I was like, that's not close enough. Like,
Mm,
but obviously I'm not a judge or like, you know, so I wouldn't know how they would rule, but I'm glad we got to use it again in the second movie.
yeah, I feel like the shape of the eyes especially are more
Yeah.
anime inspired with the Happy Death Day mask.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. And then, like I said, that wraps up this loop. Do you have anything else to say about the first loop, or the I guess either movie? Um,
Yeah, well, I want to say so I don't know if you could tell. I'm wearing the shirt that Tree
mhm.
has.
Yeah, it dumps the
It's on
funk.
right. So in this, I don't know if you know, but in the first movie and before they switch universes, it says that it happened in Austin, Texas, which is where I'm from. When she switches universes, the T-shirt now says that the concert they attended was at Howling Wolf's in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Mhm.
The first one was at Anton's nightclub. So it's a tiny little detail. You'd have to pause and zoom in and really know that that changed, which it's a small little detail which I love.
Yeah, I think that's great. Although I think it works, in the context of the movie because, like you said, they or like we both said, they're in a parallel universe and once Tree gets there. And so any changes can just be chalked up to, oh, that's one of the subtle differences. But personally, I think that that's probably just because whenever they got the shirt, they didn't pay attention. The costume designers just didn't pay attention to that, and they like, "Oh, this is the exact same shirt," and they didn't notice that it was a different because, that both movies were shot in, New Orleans.
Right.
And so it would make sense that if they were trying to resource the shirt in New Orleans, that they would get the one that was actually from there rather than the one that was from Austin, Texas. So, although that does make me wonder, well, I guess that is Carter's shirt. So maybe
Right.
I wonder if Carter is from Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of cool. Also wanted to just wear the shirt for the podcast.
Yeah, very nice. And also before we go, this is taking place, Tuesday, but most of the movie once we get to Tree does go back to her birthday on Monday the 18th. So I've been asking people talking about both movies since since we get a bit with, Tree's birthday tradition of having the cake with her mom and the single birthday candle. Do you have any birthday traditions that you follow?
So I want to say about 20 years until COVID happened, I always had a big group of friends come over and we just had these massive board game nights because I've collect a lot of board games. I believe I have over 100 board games in a closet here
Nice.
at my house. And so we'll have multiple tables set up and different groups of 4 to 6 people choose different board games. And we have a lot of food and we socialize and stuff. After COVID, it changed to me with just my immediate family picking 2 movies that I loved growing up and having a double feature. So this year it was Lost in Space, the 1990s remake, and then also Three Amigos
Mhm.
from the 80s. And so I basically forced my children to watch movies that I loved as a kid, and they have to sit there with me and watch them, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for a brief while, I started a Twitter account when I was her age. Whenever my oldest daughter was about, I think, 5 or 6, and uh, with the intention that I would show her movies that came out when I was her age, and watch them with her and live tweet her reactions. But she very quick. I think we only did like 2, maybe 3 movies before she kind of lost interest.
Sure, I gotcha.
But it was fun because, I love her, but she's not a big movie fan.
Okay,
She's more anime and video games, which is perfectly fine.
I
But,
gotcha.
yeah, that was, definitely an interesting experiment. And, it's funny, I think that the Twitter account still exists even though I haven't, uh,
That's funny.
tweeted in, you know she's 19 now, so in over 10 years.
Sure. I've been fortunate that my kids are willing to sit through with different series with me. So like one child has done the Terminator series with me, one child has done the Predator series with me, and one child has done the Alien series with me. But all 3 of them have not seen the other series. Um, you know, and so one child has gone through all the Saw movies with me. One's done Insidious. So I have 3 children, so I kind of just split it apart on what I'm watching, and I can convince one kid to sit down with me for each one, which is funny. But when with anime, I wanted to point out that there's a show, and it's a massive spoiler, but it's called The Future Diary, and you don't realize in this show, the entire show, it's like a competition that this god puts on because he's tired of being a god. He wants to pass down his powers to someone that's relevant, and so he gets a bunch of contestants, and it's like a Hunger Games style thing, but they all are trying to kill each other, and the last one that lives gets to be the god. And this whole show, we find out at the end, is in the second loop of the whole show is a time loop because the character that wins loved another character that dies, and so she starts the whole loop over again, even knowing that she'll have to kill him at the end because she wants to spend more time with him, which I think is crazy. But it's called Future Diary.
That's interesting. I think I'll have to add that to my list. My big list of potential future
Sure.
seasons. But
Is boss level on there?
yes,
Okay, cool. All right, sorry.
yeah. I mean, I have. I think I have on my short list. I have about, I think, 15 movies and a
Wow.
dozen TV episodes, and
Right.
3 or 4 novels and 4 or 5 video games.
Gotcha.
But and you know, previous guest of the show, Robert E.G. Black, he has his own list that I occasionally pull from, and he's got over like 250 sources. So I've
Wow. That's
yeah.
amazing.
So I'm as long as I'm wanting to keep going through this show, I'm never going to run out of time loops to cover.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. But thank you so much for joining me this this episode, and why don't you take a moment and let people know about your show and where you can be found online?
Sure. Nightmare Echoes. I'm on Instagram under Nightmare Echoes Pod. On YouTube, it's under Immortal Veer, because that was the username I started the YouTube account on. But we're on Spotify and Apple Music. But our episode on Happy Death Day to You comes out on February 2nd because that's Groundhog Day, and so we're gonna cover that one. So that's fun. But yeah, we cover horror movies in depth. I have 4 different co-hosts that have different likes in movies, so I get to kind of pick their brain or certain ones like different types of movies, so we get to cover different subgenres within the horror aspect because I can't convince them all to watch the same movies. But I think it's a lot of fun. So yeah, check us out. Thank you.
Right. And as always, I'm Bubbawheat, and you can find me on social media everywhere where I'm at Bubbawheat. You can also join our Facebook page. It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group where you can discuss episodes as they come out and have discussions about anything time loop related is all welcome there. And so until next time.
Hey, where you guys going?
It's churro day at the cafeteria.
Nom nom.